Well, happy Thursday, everybody. My name's Ian Utile. I'm here with three of my friends, Nigel, Gabe, and Ted. And we are now live, and this is a good thing. I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves. Nigel, would you like to go first and let all the party people know who you are?
I am Nigel. I am Right Voice CEO and Gratitude Champion. Always happy to be here to build. Love voice tech. I can't wait to get into this conversation.
Wonderful. Gabe, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Hey everyone, I'm Gabe. I'm the entrepreneur in residence at attn.live, and I'm here to do the same thing Nigel is, and it's build and serve.
All right, Teddy.
Ted Haas. I am the Chief of Ethics and of Attention Live, and I'm a social entrepreneur, and I'm here to talk about ethics in a practical way to change the world for the better.
And my name is Ian Utile, and I am the co-founder of Attention Live, where we invented sonic streaming, which does a few things. Our product allows you and your organization to broadcast audio, whether it's live or past archived audio, everywhere at one time. So right now, you can see if it shows up on my phone, I'm creating an NFT. I'm broadcasting to Amazon's Echo devices, to social media sites like YouTube. You can see my little YouTube link. We all have the same background on, so it's not showing perfectly. So with our product, you have mass distribution. In addition, we also create NFTs to automate the ability to make money from your content. And so those are kind of the two big things. We have a voice interface, which a lot of you will appreciate, not having two thumbs on a piece of glass. And one of the points of us getting together, the four of us, to do what we're calling the sonic streaming conversations is for us to all use the product and we all basically interview one another. So last Wednesday, we did an introduction, kind of talk about, hey, what qualifies me to talk about family? What qualifies Nigel to talk about voice diversity, or Ted ethics, or Gabe entrepreneurship? 2 days ago, on Tuesday, we talked about investment of time, money, and energy into these categories. And today, we'll be talking about habits. I'm going to have Ted and Gabe jump off. You guys can mute yourself and stop your video. And I'll bring you back in just a moment, Ted, after Nigel and I finish our initial conversation. So Nigel, here we are, my friend. I can kind of see you rocking. It's like you got a soundtrack going on in your head. I'm ready for
it. Every superhero needs his theme music.
You are a superhero. Yes, you are. I feel like my phone is too close to me because yours is so far away. Oh my God! Oh, the contrast between the contrast between me and you. I am like all up on it. Like, hey, Nigel. All right, let's get started. Here we go. We're talking about habits, and so what I want to hear from you is maybe just a little background on voice diversity. Because if people are hearing this for the first time, if you're live listening or watching, thanks for your attention. Nigel, why don't you give a little background on voice diversity? What is voice diversity? How do you define it? Why does it matter to this conversation? Let's talk about habits that foster voice diversity in you, in your work, and in the lives of other people that you're around.
Okay, so quick background. Grew up in New York City, melting pot of the world as far as I know. I just been around, and had great and bad experiences alike across the board. So I don't think my view of the world has been unbalanced in any way. Some good, some bad, but fair enough on either side to realize that we are just human. That's it. And I've had enough instances in my life where I've seen things that I thought to be true, and proudly not in a super negative way, but have been proven to be wholly untrue with more experience. And understanding things as simple as this. If you had a bad experience with a particular group or demographic or segment, and now you have a feeling towards that because of your experience, that is just what that is. And being able to categorize it that way and speak plainly about it. Now, maybe because of, and I'm just going to say it the way I look, it may be easier for me to speak about these things, but I think it's creating that grave space for others to speak freely and authentically and not in a curated fashion. And that's what led me to the interest in voice tech, period, because I've always preferred to speak versus being on any sort of video. I think it has its place and it has its value. It's certainly not a substitute for meeting in person. Because if we were in person, I'd probably, give you a pound, as I say, and, give you a hug, maybe even give you a kiss, who knows, but there would be a physical, manifestation of, that so video has its place, but I feel like when you sit and you truly listen, and that's what it comes down to. My uncle used to say, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. When it comes to listening, absent distraction is just better. Once you see somebody, you automatically have that. And that's one of the habits I have is acknowledging my own bias all the time. I do it actively, I do it out loud. That to me, I think is the key thing to, that kind of keeps me grounded in it, because I think you cannot be truly objective if you don't acknowledge your own, bias. If you've had certain experiences, saying them out loud, it's a powerful thing, our voice. And that's I think is the more absurd thing. And I also don't, in that same vein, I don't speak in absolutes. Even though if I think something might be, I'm pretty sure this is true. I'm like, well, I'm 99% sure, or 99.9% sure. I might be wrong.
Right.
I find it just that simple little tweak for me makes all the difference in the world. Now, some may say that's because you just don't ever want to be wrong, or you don't want to pick a side or whatever, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, it is legitimately the truth. And I think if we speak our truth and we do it the best way we know how, as like I, often say, I think we will foster an environment where others can do the same. So as far as that was the one habit, just acknowledge my bias, but in general, it's, be first, be the first to contribute value, because we live in a world now where I've seen enough, particularly in New York, having a, West Indian background, I was very much, hello, good morning, that sort of thing. But growing up in New York, you had to be like, hey, what are you talking to me for? There was a safety in that. So you try where possible, at least I do, to be the first, to be the example, to be bravely unique in who you are, sort of Eminem. I'm going to say all the things you might be thinking, so let's get that out of the way. And then do it in spite of. Do it deliberately, do it authentically, and do it loudly even. Make sure it's understood, because this way, I think it allows people to feel a little bit more disarmed and say, look, I'm not, and I know people can turn this into something. I think people want to ultimately feel comfortable. And as I said to you and Dr. Terry so many times in the voice den, when we spoke specifically about why do I keep showing up to this room, because I was made to feel comfortable. And I don't even have a picture there. I have an avatar. So for whatever people's feelings are, if I can feel comfortable in any particular way I choose to conduct myself that's not inappropriate, then mission accomplished. And I think that the greatest thing I can do to foster that is to be that example. And some of the other things I do is be grateful. We're not promised anything. Nothing's promised. Don't take anything for granted. No matter what happens, and you don't know what the smallest thing you do can lead to in another person's life. What you may, my son has this lyric in his, that we've heard 100 times. One man's trash is another man's treasure. One man's pain is another man's pleasure, because they come from different circumstances, different chances, answers, and answered answers. And it's that type of sentiment that, makes me aware. You can very simply hand someone $1. They may not have eaten. And that $1 for you may not even be enough to buy your usual coffee. But for them, it's an entire meal.
Right.
We live different existences, and we have to acknowledge those existences. And then finally, I think a huge piece of it is offering solutions. I said this last night on a unscheduled call that I had with some folks that I talked to over on Sports on the Stereo app, and complaining is not a skill set. There's no, it's a low bar to entry. There's no.
I mean, we have to teach our children not to have meltdowns, not to throw a fit, not to make it all about them. I think that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you said that particular piece of it, because in that, I think we also have to, going back to providing solutions, we also have to recognize, in as much as I'm the gratitude champion, self-proclaimed, in my head, that's what I believe.
No. No, time out. You are Ian Utile proclaimed. Not that big of a deal, but I proclaim you.
But a huge distinction nonetheless. But you are the optimist.
It's definitely a step up from self-proclaimed, because now you have another man proclaiming you. And there's that proverb, let another man praise you and not your own lips. So I am here to praise you, Nigel.
And I will take that. I appreciate it. So to your point, I think that in that same vein of, offering a solution or perspective, and I think that as much as
I lost you as much as I'm on the edge of my seat. I can't wait for what you have to say next. But you're frozen.
Like it's sort of like air.
Okay, Nigel will be back. Ted and Gabe, why don't you both come on up?
It's a different different situation.
There we go.
I'm sorry, it's different for someone who has experienced something in a regular basis. So when I grew up, I was still using a two-way pager and a flip phone. Now, like practically every kid has a $600, $800, $900 phone. So
that's crazy.
Gratitude for the phone, it's a little bit like, I don't know, we have to be careful with not judging too harshly the older generation, and just put it in perspective, and perhaps do this instead. And I will close with this. Why do you not think that that's a valuable tool? Do you understand that $900 is still a significant amount of money?
Absolutely.
Because I think in the asking of the why, we're gonna start to unearth things. And then from a voice diversity perspective, I think that's what it is. It's us understanding each other a little better, recognizing that we're different, and really embracing that difference as a strength.
That's good.
Yep. So I will leave you with a little piece I wrote. We are kaleidoscopes, colored by the intersections of our diversity, and unity is our destiny. And I believe that, and I'm done speaking now. Thank you for having me.
Love it. So that wraps up the conversation for this morning with voice diversity and the talk on habits. Nigel and I discussed some good and bad habits. Ted and Gabe, why don't you come up? I'm going to jump out in a moment. Ted or Gabe, any feedback on our voice diversity habits conversation before Gabe and I jump out? And Nigel, you interview Ted on habits around ethics.
No, that was awesome.
Thank you.
Totally awesome. Yeah, the policy of speaking about good habits, putting me on mute was a great habit, because it would have sounded like a Pentecostal service, like I was shouting hallelujah. That was great. And really good. So I was taking notes, and I'm going to segue onto ethics. What you said was
it's weird. I don't even know how this guy got my cell phone, but I got a text message from Chris Cuomo. He said he wants me to bring the camera closer. He said he likes it when the camera's really close on him. All right. I'm blocking my video. I'm going on mute. Gabe, you can do the same. Ted, it's time for you to interview Nigel. I'll be back.
No. Nigel was just interviewed. He's interviewing me. Oh, come on.
Exactly. I was just testing you.
Awesome. It's a great habit.
we're doing a master class what happens today. So for all of you tuning in.
Oh, this is a master class.
It's
Oh,
a
I think
master class.
Masonic streaming master classes.
Yes, yeah. You know what? We should like that. I like that. And I actually thought of a name, 4x8, because it's four of us, 8 conversations, so something like that. That was what came to mind anyway. So Ted, my friend, how are you, sir?
I'm really good. I'm good.
You sound
good. I was good before, and then I heard your conversation, and that laid me up to even better than good.
Well, that's awesome, because we're going to talk about one of my next favorite subjects, which is ethics, and I am super interested in hearing about the habits used to keep that important fortress of ethics that people depend on you for, that society depends on you for. And in this voice space, I think it's critical at these times, the ethics and standards and just building that trust. So how do you tell me one interesting, absurd, whatever habit that you have that really helps to keep you grounded?
I have one habit I have that is sometimes good, sometimes bad. I interrupt people. So I just cut you off and interrupted you.
Jump right in, you're passionate.
We're also streaming this 4x8. So part of that, the Sonic Streaming Masterclass, and we're also experimenting. I am streaming this on Attention Live, through Attention Live. So if anyone who's watching it there, or maybe on my YouTube channel, which we'll have to see if the YouTube succeeded, because it's an experiment and we're troubleshooting and working on that. So with beta tests, there's possibility, there's risk. But if you're listening, welcome. And this is a masterclass on Sonic streaming, and we're so glad you're joining in. So the question is, a habit.
Yes.
I was loving what you were saying. I was going to take a different twist on it, but it's not different because you beat me to the punch. So it's kind of along the stream, along the same stream. Good habits and bad habits, rather than people think, normally what you expect when you talk about habits is someone's going to get up and talk about how through their discipline over years, they've developed a habit that's a best practice. I'm going to take a different twist on it. And there's a fine line between a good habit and a bad habit. And I think the more we can recognize that every strength is a quarter turn away from being your worst weakness, and the more we can acknowledge that, the better we can be. One of my best habits for ethics is along lines of what you said about acknowledging your own bias and never speaking in absolutes. I have a sense of humor, and being a youngest child, I've developed that from as long as I can remember, because you're the youngest and everyone's ignoring you. So you can't compete with your older brother with intellect because he's older, and you can't compete physically because he beats you up. What's the politically correct term? When he wrestles, he demonstrates his physical superiority.
Eloquently put.
So you differentiate yourself by being clever and trying to be funny. And that makes you a comedian. It also makes you extremely annoying. That helps you, woo your wife and court her. It also, once you're married, can drive her crazy. And we had this conversation this morning. She said, this morning is a good time for you to tease me and for us to have fun because I'm chipper today. Don't do it at night. I'm tired. It drives me crazy, and it's the same gift. And that's one of the things I've learned is every strength is a weakness, and learn how to moderate it. So I think pushing 51, I'll be 51 August 2nd. And August 3rd, I'll celebrate 25 years of marriage. So I'm 1 year away from being married as long as I was single. But several of the years when I was single, I was quite young. So I don't, it seems like more than half of my adult life I've been married. So Yeah.
That
Every strength is a weakness, and I found humor helps make people feel safe if used in the right time, playing that gift. And also I'm learning more and more how, how to use when I was in high school, I was angry at the universe, frustrated with life. And, you have massive amounts of testosterone running through your system when you become you go through puberty. And so you're just angry all the time. I used my gift to I was hilarious, but I drew a clear line. You either loved me or hated me.
authenticity.
And it's, I've learned now if you can, be self-deprecating. The funniest jokes are when someone's self-aware and making fun of themselves, and there's also a time to be a prophet and also use humor when you're a prophet. Like one pastor said when he was talking about racism and saying some pretty hard stuff to a white audience, he said, "I said it with humor so it wouldn't hurt as much." Very wise.
How do you find, so when you
his joke to the white audience was, you guys believe that everyone who quotes the Bible is a Christian, even if they are Republican. He was a registered Republican. So again, he's making fun of himself. Again, see that. So that was great.
That's good. That's good. So let me ask you, when you're having conversations that are going to be a bit more spirited, which I believe is a necessity in tackling topics such as, ethics and diversity and things like that, because it's not, I think sometimes we want things to feel comfortable that shouldn't feel comfortable. So when ahead of time that situations aren't going to feel as comfortable, what habit do you find you reach to beyond humor? Or give me an example.
Well, first of all, we're talking about habits.
Yeah.
So you do something over and over, you don't have to prepare. You're prepared all the time. So I don't go into a situation thinking, I better prepare and think of my jokes ahead of time and know how to use it.
Right.
I just have this sense, and I'm trying to learn it. I keep thinking of, I have this framework in my mind of don't fire till you see the whites of their eyes.
Okay.
And also, and just like, okay, when do I need to diffuse the system? And probably a habit I'm hoping to learn and growing in. And I can think of a situation where I did good, and I can think of plenty of situations where I've screwed up, is shutting up. I remember one time I was speaking in this church. I loved it. It was a church in Vallejo, and from a Black Baptist, no, actually a Church of God in Christ. It was a Church of God in Christ, which is a different tradition than I grew up in, and it was just having fun, and I was at a blast, and I had the crowd, and it was going, and I thought it was a wonderful service.
Right.
And afterwards, some of the feedback I got from the businessman who had invited me in, and he says, it was really good, but he says, Ted, every time you had us convicted, you made a joke and let us off the hook. And I'm like, ooh. And I'm like, that's where I needed to I needed to get, use the humor to bond with him, but then I needed to just shut up. And so that's one of the habits I'm trying to learn is, when do you just shut up? Like in negotiation, he who speaks next loses. At a certain time, you just need to shut up and let it stand, and, let reality do the talking.
Wise words.
Filler words, filler jokes.
I love that. That's really a nugget. And with that, I think we're just about at time. I actually
put a note,
as always.
Stages of things to come. Maybe we can talk about it next week. I was super intrigued by what you said about never speak in absolutes. I want to talk to you about that and shift a paradigm to understand frame of references.
Okay.
Relative versus absolute. And I think if we change that paradigm,
Right.
a different way of looking at it, and we can not speak in absolutes and in absolutes and see what is absolute, but it's absolute relative to something. So anyways, that's a
For us.
preview, a tinkling of what's going to come next. So, hey, move us forward.
All right. So now we're about to bring everybody back on. If everybody can come back in, get a little, quick feedback, and then move on to Ian and Gabe. See everybody pop back in.
Yeah, it was great. That was a great conversation. I think habits, when it comes to ethics, I think, Ted, you made it real relatable. And I think telling stories is really important. And so Gabe, as Ted interviews you on habits around entrepreneurship, I think you may have a story or two about your dad and the things that you've learned about his habits, probably his good habits, or things that you've learned about bad habits looking at me. And so, story time, everybody. I'm going to jump off now. Bye. I'll be back later.
See you guys.
I love that. See, that's a perfect example. Ian made a funny, but he turned it, when you were expecting him to say your dad's bad habits, he said my bad habits. I love it. All right, Gabe. I want to hear about habits from your dad, also from yourself, however you feel led. What habits have you developed that help you be this awesome entrepreneur that I see you as?
Where should I start? So I've definitely learned a ton from my dad, and I've also learned from Ian and seeing you guys work. And I would say some of the main ones I've learned from my dad is to be as empathetic as possible in business. That's something he preaches all the time. And I'm still learning, because when you're 18, you want everyone to think, I don't know, that you're right all the time. And that's not the case, because you're 18 and you just think you're right and you're not. And so being very empathetic all the time is something I've worked on with my dad. And that's something you got to learn how to, look through the lenses that everyone else does. And also some more harder habits that I've come across is I go in the sauna every day for about an hour just because it helps clear my head. That's also something I learned from my dad, was just because doing stuff like that, it's really hard to sit for 30 minutes in something really hot, and it helps you. If you're out, it just instills in your mind, if I can make it through this 30 minutes, I can make it through work. And so that is another thing that helps. And also I do one-wheel rides every day, which helps clear my head, just because I stick my AirPods in and cruise around, and that definitely helps clear your head. Because I think finding things when you're very busy and things are complicated, finding things that help clear your head every once in a while, so you can just sit down and be like, I'm okay. Everything's okay. The world is still spinning. That helps a lot when you can just sit down, be cool and composed, and think about everything that you've been doing. And also I like to watch as much sports as possible every day, because you got to be competitive in business. It's just like sports almost.
Wow. How do you watch? All this is awesome. This is great. These are so cool. I could just, all of them set me off. I love the theme of the discipline that you're learning to keep your brain clear. Now the science, there's so much science, like boredom. Not too long ago, we would have said, you need disciplines to never be bored. And it's quite the opposite. No, you need disciplines to put yourself in a place where your brain's so clear that you start. Boredom is the predecessor of creativity. So I love that your disciplines were around, clearing your mind, making sure you're in a stable state, a creative state, relaxed. I love that. As opposed to disciplines around got to work hard more,
Yeah.
But so how do you watch more sports? What do you do? Turn on the TV or?
So my favorite sports to watch are definitely the NBA and the NFL, but I definitely watch a lot of baseball too. But I'm more of I've played sports my entire life, so I'm fairly competitive in that sense. So I just like watching people compete. I just like watching people trying hard at what they're doing, because then, makes you want to try hard at what you're doing, because it's always good it's healthy to compete. And I think that that's creates a healthy environment when everyone's
Of what
competing.
you're saying.
'Cause
Ah,
everyone
this is so
better.
good. This is so good, Gabe. Oh man, a preview of things to come, Gabe. We've got to dive into this again. So I'm going to interview you again before this cycle's over, right? We got 8 things and only 4 people. So I
Yeah.
love this. I love all this. I'm going to watch sports renewed because it is an escape and relaxing. But it does spark your competitiveness.
It
Yeah.
does.
Cultivate that competitiveness. Yeah, we could talk about competitiveness. That's a good habit that can also become very toxic.
Yeah.
It's the fine.
Agreed upon.
And it's so powerful. It can become so toxic. Learning who's on your team and who are you really competing against. So, this is great. I guess anything else you want to add?
No, not a ton for me, but we can bring Ian on the screen if you want.
Let's bring back. So Nigel and Ian, come back. And before I hand this over to Gabe and Ian, who are going to be doing the interviewing and interviewee, anything you guys any feedback on what Gabe shared?
I'm going to jump in. I love what you said about empathy. I think that is an important piece, a very important piece. And to what you said, Ted, it's like it's also relative. If you haven't experienced something, I was just talking about this last night. If you grew up at a time where you experienced actual bullying, you can only have so much empathy for cyberbullying because you've seen different things. And so you think about that, and it's something that we don't acknowledge. So
well, Nigel, you can also have grown up in. Everything has 2 sides. You can grow up experiencing real bullying and then see cyberbullying and see that the effects are so close to what you experienced.
Yeah.
And, it works both ways. You can also be too empathetic. A doctor that's too empathetic can't go in there and fix you.
That's a crutch.
Oh, great. All right. This is excellent. Anything you want to add, Ian? But you can add because you're on the screen next. So,
well, I mean, I just think on this conversation around habits in entrepreneurship, I don't think most young people your age, Gabe, are thinking through things like get in a sauna and use my will to stay in the sauna when I want to get out, or get on the one wheel and learn to clear my head with something that's enjoyable and frees me and sparks creativity. Or when I watch sports, start to think about competition, like who's competing, what are they fighting for, what's it like to work and have the whole world watching and have an entire industry watching and criticizing me, and that's their job. Or what's it like to actually have a job where I'm working with another group of people and their job is to make me look bad at my job, and to go through these different elements. I think it was good insights that you brought. So I'm glad that you talked about it. So Ted and Nigel, you guys can jump off.
You packed a lot of wisdom into 5 minutes, Gabe. That's another great habit. Super concise.
That's right.
Thank you.
And Gabe and I will talk about family for a moment.
We will.
All right. See you in a bit.
So how are you doing, Ian?
Wonderful.
That is amazing.
Yes, it is.
I like to hear.
I already rode my one wheel for a few miles this morning.
Did you? Oh, I haven't done my one wheel ride. I usually do my one wheel rides right at about lunch. When I take my lunch is when I'll go and hop on my one wheel and cruise around.
Yeah, I've been trying to do it early in the morning just because it is a good way to start my day. And then I try to do it again.
I should probably start doing it early in the morning now because it's getting by noon.
It's warm in the middle of the day. I mean, it's hot there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. What time? So when the sun rises in the morning, what's the temp there? Like 65, 70?
It's like 80 degrees right now.
Okay, yeah. So see, if you go in the morning around sunrise, it'll be nice and brisk. It won't be super hot. So let's talk about family habits. We aren't going to take too long. I think I want to wrap up our combo one-on-one in 5 minutes or so.
That sounds good. All right. So what, Ian Utile, is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love to do that makes a significant impact on your family?
So I'd say one absurd thing I do is I don't have rhythms and schedules. That definitely impacts my family in a big way. both positively and negatively, right? So the negative impact of my chaotic kind of, I do whatever I'm feeling is, I just don't have a schedule. I don't have a rhythm. I don't get up at the same time of day. I don't go to sleep the same time of the day. I don't eat the same things. I don't work in the same place. I don't use the same work tools. I don't go to the same beach or ride on the same trails on my one wheel. Everything is constantly changing and different. So it's very consistent. So a negative impact is that my family has a bit of a hard time knowing what to expect. They don't know exactly, what is dad doing? Why is he doing it? A positive thing is that I constantly have my children every single day. I'm reminding them with my actions that life is about change, and that the most consistent thing is going to be inconsistency and change, and they're going to constantly face that. So that's a very positive thing. Other really unusual habits. I'm very optimistic. I used to be so optimistic that I was criticized for my optimism, in that I would have mentors say, tell me one thing, Ian, that you're afraid of. And I'm just like, blank, tell me anything you're insecure about. Tell me something you're ashamed of. And I'm just like, I got nothing. And so I had some mentors really push to say, hey, you're covering over natural emotions of pain and sadness, sorrow, disappointment, angst, anxiety. You're covering over these things that are natural human emotions with optimism and positivity. So when I was your age, every time somebody asked me a question like, how are you? I'm like, it's the best day of my life. And that was real. It was, but it wasn't whole, right? It was the best day of my life. And I was also having the hardest moment, as all humans have pretty much all the time. So I think a very unusual habit is that at one point of my life and my family, I was 99+% optimism, positivity, less than 1% critical, cynicism, realism, negativity. And so I still am very optimistic. I'm still very positive, but I've made it a habit to try to include some of the darker emotions in my processing and discussing things with my boys and with my family. I think that's like kind of an unusual habit, a little bit strange to like I try to force in some of these things that I've tried to suppress for a long time, try to bring those out. So those are a couple kind of unusual habits. I don't have a schedule, and I really put effort and energy toward making sure that I'm not only expressing one side of the story, that I'm capable and willing and even, directing my will toward explaining situations and scenarios in a balanced and holistic way. So let me turn this around on you. You've been around me and my boys, my family, quite a bit. You've come and stayed in the treehouse. Is there any habit or unusual pattern in my life and in my family's life that you think make a big impact, whether positive or negative? I'd love to get your input.
That's a good question. I wouldn't say you were saying that you don't really have a schedule. I feel like you know what you're doing when you wake up in the morning, though. You know what you're doing. You know what you got to do. You know what you got to get done for the day. So I wouldn't say you have you're fluid, though, for sure.
Yes.
But I would say that you definitely have somewhat of a schedule. I don't know. I would definitely say how should I say this? The very, 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 the optimism that seeps from your body is very, 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 like, it's a good thing, because then it makes me optimistic. It makes him optimistic. It makes everyone around us happier.
Yeah.
And you're happier. And so I would say that is definitely something that I would have to agree with on you.
Good. I'll give this last one, and that is a high value for fun. So that's one other habit that's really, really, really significant. So in my family, we and I have specifically, just this crazy high value for fun in family. So this could be that we prioritize playing ping pong, or we prioritize playing board games, or we prioritize going to the beach. We prioritize riding the one wheel or the scooters, or going to play disc golf. We prioritize watching movies and snuggling and wrestling and going and looking at animals and outside, and like whatever can add fun, whatever can lighten life, because life is very dark if you let it be. So that's another huge habit that has a massive impact on my family, is that my boys and my parents and everybody in my life know that if I'm with Ian, that we're going to laugh, we're going to hug, and we're going to do something that's exhilarating and adventurous. Most likely that's part of what's happening together. So I think we'll end there. And Nigel and Teddy, if you want to come back, we're going to wrap this up and turn off the live stream. Any
Good
feedback,
stuff.
Teddy?
Oh yeah, I love this. I love what you shared. I really impressed at what a theme there was throughout these, and I'm sure we all, being the planners we were, had meticulously planned our notes ahead of time. But I also like this whole idea of we're interviewing each other, and we're giving ourselves a format to really get to know each other well. I mean, I'm thinking I felt like I knew all of you before this, and now I feel like, wow, maybe I didn't. I'm learning new stuff. It's going deeper. It's really interesting. I'm looking forward to the next 5 weeks, and I'm already thinking, what are we going to do after that?
Well, you and I got a couple of conversations already queued up just off the back of this. So I definitely agree with you. I learn something every time we speak, and I think that's an important piece of building. And Ian, I particularly liked I think if you want to be good at something, and I'm going to use forgiveness as an example. One of the things I've learned in forgiveness is it's not something that I believe happens immediately, especially if you feel like you've been transgressed against or wronged in a very deep way. So the counsel I've gotten is this: do it, live it, become it until it actually becomes true. Do it until it becomes true. And that practice, whether or not, yes, maybe, covering over it or being an optimist, but I think that as we do these things, and I found that with gratitude quite a bit, it just seems to come full circle.
Yeah.
And it comes from a deep-seated belief in what it is you're doing, and a genuine happiness in doing it. And you get there if you work at it. So I love that you said that.
That's awesome.
Forgiveness. I love that. Put
So
that
Gabe,
on
why don't you look at the
conversations,
schedule and let us all know what we're talking about this upcoming Tuesday?
All right, I will. So this upcoming Tuesday, we will be talking about we'll be talking about challenges. How have certain challenges help set you up in whatever category you're talking about, mine being entrepreneurship. How have challenges set up your category for how you're going to do better in it, or how it's going to help you, or how it has helped you? And so it's challenges next.
Love challenge.
Wow.
That's a challenge.
Family challenges are really unique to talk about on a live
I think
stream.
you have an unfair advantage, Ian.
I am going to be very thoughtful about the words that I say next Tuesday.
We could switch. You can speak about ethics, and I can speak about family.
No. I like a challenge.
Yeah, it might be a challenge.
But I am going to be very, very thoughtful about the words I say, because family's challenging. And it's
Who's
really
interviewing?
unique. Yeah, Gabe, why don't you tell us who's interviewing who on Tuesday?
We'll start off with Ian interviewing me about entrepreneurship. Then I'll interview Ted, and then Ted will interview Nigel, and then Nigel will interview Ian.
Oh boy, I get the family question. Nice.
Yes.
I don't know if you're ready for this. You seem way too happy about this topic.
I double dog dare you to ask me even tougher questions. I'll give quick answers if you ask lots of tough questions about challenges and family.
Lots of tough questions with quick answers. That's another way.
Okay,
I
so
can do quick answers. It's possible.
No, yeah. You can also just state the conclusion, and you don't have to go into all the dirty laundry that led you to
You know,
that. conclusion.
here's the easy answer for any man in a family. Everything's my responsibility, no matter whose fault it is. Real easy. Every challenge falls on my shoulders if I'm the one that's taking responsibility for things. All right, party people. I'm gonna end the live stream on YouTube and through Attention Live. Thank you for joining us. We truly appreciate your attention, and we'll be back again soon with another Sonic Stream conversation. Also, go ahead, Teddy.
Stay tuned. There's a bonus episode coming up because I wasn't able to join last Tuesday. So Ian and I are going to do a bonus episode to make up for that.
And Ted is so excited about that right now.
I'm super excited about it. I want to do it right now, but we'll have to do it another time.